Hi all, I thought we should look at a more typical Larsen win, and one using the opening which took his name, the Nimzovich-Larsen attack, so 1B3. This game was played against GM Lubomir Kavalek in the Lugano 1970 tournament held in Switzerland. I think it was a double round tournament. Kavalek has annotated it himself. He writes for the Huffington Post, and he did another article about this game on September the 16th in tribute to the great Dane Bent Larsen. So let's have a look. So Kavalek was facing B3, so we'll take White's perspective, Larsen's perspective. So C5, bishop B2. Okay, we've immediately got pressure on the dark squares, obviously. Knight C6, but now C4, so it's kind of like an English opening, but with this choice of having the fianchetto bishop. So after E5, we get now double fianchetto. So these bishops are going to be striking out like this. I think this is like a common thing in English, this double fianchetto. So it's interesting. Bishop G2, now knight Ge7, E3. And black also fianchettos his king side bishop now with G6. And now they move knight E2, not interfering with this bishop's scope. And also potentially, maybe there's F4 later. D4 is still supported, so the knight's not too bad on E2. Now knight BC3, so Larsen's delaying the routine kingside castling, so he's got something up his sleeve which we're about to see. After castles, White still delays castling, he plays D3. So this looks fairly sleeky, doesn't it? And at the moment you'll see that black's kind of clamped from playing D5, which is a good idea basically. And after bishop e6, the clamp is further reinforced now by simply occupying d5 to make, d5 a totally illegal move. So just blockading that d6 pawn. Okay, queen d7, and now we see it. The reason why Bent Larsen had avoided castling kingside, because he plays the seemingly fun but energetic, but kind of creative move h4. And it's difficult in practice for black to defend if your opponent's a very resourceful attacking player. This could be very dangerous, such an h pawn advance. The thing is, if black also reacts with h5, then that's kind of, if he ever plays f5 later, g5 is going to be significantly weakened. So he doesn't really want to play a move like h5. So he risks giving Larsen, the h5 move later. So Larsen plays queen d2 here, preparing to, castle queenside. Rook a e8, and now the move h5. Okay, so black sees, Larsen's going to castle queenside, and he tries to rip open the queenside to make it less tempting, and he does so with this nice kind of idea, this pawn sack, which didn't quite work out in this game. But it made the game double-edged. It wasn't just a one-way street, and potentially maybe black had some very good resource in this game, which we'll check out as well. But knight ec3 here. Now Kavalek took, so he's exposing a bit that semi-open b file now. If White's really going to castle queenside, it looks as though this might be trouble on the horizon. Now this e4 allows this knight to go to e5, which pressurizes c4. It also pressurizes these squares. So that seems to be a logical positional move. Knight e5. Now Larsen plays knight f4. And it's around here that coming up after rook d8. So Kavalek doesn't mind losing his knight square bishop, because these knights are kind of doing a good job providing this stranglehold on the d5 square. But here, after this king b1, Kavalek may have missed bishop takes c4, because this kind of could expose the white king at the cost of that bishop sack on this diagonal, and with ideas like queen a4 later as well. If takes, knight c4, queen moves, knight b2, king b2, queen a4, because there'll be a pin, and then this b file and other stuff could really be spelling trouble for White. And there's some variations if you want to check them out in Kavalek's article. So if you go to the Huffington Post, check out the variations there. if the bishop takes c4. Apparently he spent a long time on that and rejected it. He just played bishop f7. So now the attack continues, ingeniously in fact, because Larsen's next move, I wonder if you can predict what he played here. Because really, look, how do you support this rook blasting down on the h file? That's the problem. How can you quickly get this queen to say, you know, h2, rather crudely? You know, how can you coordinate an attack here? Potentially you've got a latent resource on this diagonal with that bishop. You've got good control over d5, yes, but how would you proceed the attack in a creative fashion? So that's the question for you. Okay, I'll give you 5 seconds. Try and take away some of these arrows as well. Okay, Larsen played now g4, believe it or not. So black obviously doesn't want to play fg, because knight takes e4, you know, e4 will be dropping off. He doesn't want his centre to collapse. So he plays, you know, knight takes g4. But now we get this f3 move with tempo attacking the knight. So that's the point, you know, these pieces are getting cleared out of the way for the queen to potentially come to the h file. So bishop takes f3, knight e5. Now queen h2, finally the queen arrives on the h file. The clearance has been made. Direct threat, all good fun, threatening mate in 1. So here, Kavalek plays bishop takes c4, a bit later than, but maybe, you know, better late than never, you could say. But it's taken here. Knight takes f3. Now this check, and here there's a few tempting attacking ideas. One of the most forcing perhaps is knight cd5, simply threatening that bishop on the long diagonal. Rook g8. Now Larsen continues with knight takes e7. So he's hitting g6 basically. If the queen can't take, because g6 will fall. But g6 was falling anyway after rook b8. However, there's a problem here. If queen takes g6, king takes e7. Look at this. This bishop is in trouble, and the white king's in trouble. So Larsen has to be careful in defence as well as trying to conduct the attack at the same time. He plays the move king a1. So the bishop's pinned at the moment. Kavalek takes time now to snap up the knight with queen takes e7. But now we see queen takes g6 check. Another check, knight e6. So winning the queen. Or is it? Here Larsen didn't take the queen because bishop takes b2 check would be winning the queen with big advantage, so he has to be very careful. So accurately played attack now. Bishop takes g7 check, so that the king can now protect the queen, and you might think the black king's escaped, but there's a magical move here which I'll give you 10 seconds to see if you can spot. So starting from now. Okay, bishop f8 check. So the king can't take because then the queen would be lost without any compensation. So rook takes instead, but now comes rook h7 check. So winning that queen with a big advantage. In fact, doesn't even need to win the queen. If the queen moves back, for example, then what would you play here? I hope you wouldn't be too greedy here. There's something greater at stake if I give you another 5 seconds. Okay, queen takes d6, check, and then queen d8. Forget about the queen. So that was. Let's have a look at that Larsen attack. So this was the prelude to that very famous 19 move unfortunate massacre which Larsen had at the hands of Spassky. But briefly, the Larsen-Nimzovich attack has some venom, as this game demonstrates, and you don't have to castle kingside. You can break one of the rules or many of the rules here to get a fun attack going, and get a situation where you're casting on opposite sides, which Larsen seems to do well in when both sides castled on other parts of the board. But this g4 is a way of breaking down the black position, seemingly very solid here, Very nice, position knight, it seems. Nice position, bishops protecting the king. Potential semi-open b file to throw in a kingside attack against the white king, on the queen side rather. So g4 though turns the tables a little bit, generates counterplay finally for white, direct threats, and now this very, very nice combination idea, starting with the clever king a1 that's needed as well first, but now carrying on with a beautiful combination. So bishop takes g7, and now this absolute killer move, bishop f8 check. So with the idea of rook h7. So if queen interposes, then queen takes d6. In fact, if rook interposes here, then we get the same variation. So rook takes, then queen takes d6, queen d8. Hope you enjoyed it. Please leave any comments or questions on YouTube. Thanks very much.